back from this. Hey, this is Khalid Aleem, the real estate boy, and today's going to be the ultimate home buying seminar. Now, I'm doing this on um, Real Estate with Soul. All right. Usually, I have a guest on here every Friday, but today I'm the guest. So we're going to be talking about how to buy a home. All right. It's 2023. Renting is played out. Okay. Why? Because you don't have no control. You don't have no control over your space. And more importantly, you don't got no control over the monies. How much rent are you going to pay? Is my rent going up next year? Okay. It's not. So you need to buy a home. All right. This is exactly why I did. You need to buy a home because your landlord, every time his taxes go up, guess whose rent's going to go up? Your rent's going to go up. All right. So good morning. Welcome. This is the real estate boy. This is the real estate boy, Khalid Aleem. So let's jump into the ultimate home buying webinar. Now, if you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, if you're on LinkedIn, then you'll be able to see this, but you won't be able to see my slides on TikTok. All right. So let's get into this. All right. So this is the first time home buying mastermind where I go from A to Z on the home buying process. All right. This is me, Khalid Aleem. You can contact me at 267-930-1249. And what we want to do after this is you want to book a buyer consultation with me, a buyer consultation where we actually sit down and we go over your personal situation. All right. So first thing we need to talk about is credit. What is my FICO score? Because a lot of y'all, you want a house, but your credit ain't where it needs to be. And I find out a lot of times people's credit is not where it needs to be because they know nothing about credit. They know absolutely nothing about credit. So if you know better, you would do better, as they say. So let's talk about credit. Your credit score is made up of a number of things, all right? The biggest thing your credit score is made up of is your payment history, all right? It's your payment history. Are you paying your bills on time? Because this is the reason for the credit score. So vendors know, is this person going to pay me or not? All right. Is it? So 35% of your credit score is made up of payment history. You can't have any latenesses. And if you do have any latenesses, then you really need to get with somebody so they can try to get those off for you. Now, if your lateness is 2 years or more, then it doesn't affect your score as much. But if it's 2 years and in, you really need to be working with a credit coach to try to get those off. All right. Here's a way for you never to receive a late payment. What you should do is you should put your payments on automatic. You should put your payments on automatic for the minimum auto pay. Put that on there, and even if you forget, at least it's going to pay the minimum. So that's 35%. 30% is credit utilization. And credit utilization is something that people kind of miss because it's not something that's really wide known. So, what's credit utilization? All right, credit utilization is the amount of credit that you use compared to the amount of credit that you have. For example, if your credit limit is $6,000 and you use $3,000, you're at 50%. All right. They really want you to be at 30% or less. Okay. Maybe the best is probably like around 5%. So 10% of 6,000 is what? Is 600. So half of that is 300. So if your credit limit is $6,000, at the end, when you get the statement date, you should have about maybe like a $300 balance. Now you got to be careful of credit cards because credit cards have two different dates. You have the statement date and you have the due date. The due date is that if you pay after that, they're going to charge you something. Okay, that's the due date. But if it's the statement date is when they report your balance to the credit bureaus. So that's the time that your credit card snitch on you. Okay, but these are two different dates. So for example, if you had a credit limit of $1,000, okay, and then on your statement date you spent maybe like $800. Okay, now your credit utilization is at 80%, which is terrible, and it's going to bang your credit up for that month. But you may be looking at the due date. So the statement date could be on the 20th, but the due date is on the 25th. So in your mind, you're like, okay, I'm going to pay this off by the 25th. But by the 20th, it's already affected your credit score. So you're already banged up. Find out when your statement date is and find out when your due date is. All right. So that's 30%. So that's 65% of your credit score is based on two things. That's four. Two things. Two things. Your payment history. And also, you know what? Let me share this screen here because that's what I wasn't doing here. There we go. Your payment history and your credit utilization. Okay. Next, we have your credit inquiries. Now, when people are trying to get credit or trying to get a loan, they're super scared of inquiries. So you're going to run your balance up. You're going to pay late fees or pay payments late, but you're scared of inquiry. Inquiries are only 10% of your credit score. Only 10%. So even if you get a boatload of inquiries, yeah, it's going to hurt your credit a little bit, but not as much as when you not as much as credit utilization, not as much if you get a late payment. Okay. Next, we have length of credit history. How long is your credit history? Now, here's something that you can do to circumvent this. You can be an authorized user on somebody else's credit card, but here is caveat to being an authorized user. It's just like co-signing. Whatever they do goes on your credit also. So you got to make sure you trust this person. You really got to make sure that you trust this person that um you got to make sure that you trust them because if you're authorized, people usually get authorized users on their parent's card. But if your parent runs the card up, then that's going on you too. All right. So length of credit. So that's why people who have 800 credit scores, 850 credit scores, you usually, not all the time, but you usually see that their length of history, meaning how long they've had credit, is usually about 10, 15 years. Okay. So that's a part of it. And also different types of credit. That's 10%. The credit score likes to see different types. Main types are revolving, and that's credit cards. All right. So, but you need to have a good mix. So you want to have at least two credit cards. You also want to have a short-term loan. A short-term loan, like a short-term installment loan. A short-term installment loan is like a car loan or like a personal loan. And then the best type of loan is a home loan, and that's a long-term installment loan. All right. So those are the different types. That's what your credit score is made up of. So if you don't have a good credit score, you need to find why. Credit Karma is a good place to look to find out what's on your credit, but it's not a good place to find out what your credit score is. Okay. It's not a good place to find out what your credit score is because they use the Vista credit type where you're looking for the FICO credit type. So, how do you find FICO? If you go to www.khalednathanaleem.com, I have a link in there where you can get all three of your credit scores for a dollar. All three of your FICO credit scores for a dollar. Before you get a loan, you definitely want to know what your credit score is. Okay. So I am going to let's jump into the presentation as far as the road to home ownership. Now, after I break down the road to home ownership, as a first time home buyer, you're not going to have any more questions. All right. You're going to have absolutely no more questions. So the first thing that you need to do when looking to buy a home is choose the right realtor. Okay? You got to choose the right realtor. Why? Because the realtor is going to quarterback your whole entire situation. And listen, they got some terrible realtors out there. Y'all my folks. Y'all my folks in this real estate business, but you got some terrible realtors out there. I'm dealing with one now. I'm on the seller side of this transaction. This other realtors on the buyer side. Okay. And what you're supposed to do is when you do an inspection, you're supposed to schedule it. Well, he didn't schedule it. He just had the inspector show up. So now that he just had the inspector show up, we weren't ready. So now we're not ready, and your inspector has to sit outside. Why? Because you didn't schedule it. Now we're going to make it work, but you can lose deals like that. Okay. So you have to find the right realtor. Okay. So let's what's the right realtor? Number one, they need to be knowledgeable. They need to be knowledgeable because there's so many moving parts that if you just fresh out of school or you're doing this part-time, it's tough. I'm not saying that there's not successful, knowledgeable part-time realtors out there. Okay. But if you do not do this full time, it's tough. So your nephew that just got his license, it may not be the time for him to assist you with the biggest financial transaction in your life. Okay. Also, the person should be available to you. The person should be available so you should be able to reach them. A lot of times you'll have realtors who are too big. Okay. There's some realtors that are too big. So you're not going to actually work with them. What you'll work with is you may work with one of their sidekicks, but you want somebody that's accessible to you. But you want somebody that does this day in and day out. So that's why maybe your aunt that had her real estate license for 20 years, but she doesn't do this every day, she might not be the best one. She might not be the best person for it. And you want a realtor that has different relationships with different lenders. And that's the next one, choosing the right lender. For the most part, going down to your neighborhood bank is not the move. It's not the move. Why? Because if you just go down to your neighborhood bank, you might think, oh, well, that bank, it takes care of me. Oh, they gonna look out because I've been there for 20 or 30 years. But when you go into that bank, you're talking to the manager, you're talking to the tellers. When you go to get a loan, it's going to be a call center in Iowa. And if it's a call center in Iowa, they're going to treat you like what? They're going to treat you like a number. They're going to treat you like a number because they don't know you. That's why it's good to be with a realtor who has different relationships to where they're introducing you to a number of lenders. They're introducing you to a number of banks. Okay. In my particular situation, I have my folks fill out 6 or 7 different mortgage lender applications. Why? Because everybody doesn't have the same program. Everybody doesn't have the same program. These people, for first time home buyers, are giving up $20,000. These folks are giving $18,000. This bank right here, if you have over a 620, they'll give you a conventional loan and also a 100% loan. Okay. So they're not all equal. But if you're pigeonholed with one particular lender, then you're not going to get all the love. You're not going to get all the love. So you need to pick the right lenders. Next is get your pre-approval. You got to get pre-approved. You got to get pre-approved because that tells you how much home you can buy. If you don't have a pre-approval, then you're really flying blind. And if you go to a home and you actually want to buy the home, you still need the pre-approval. You still got to go back and get the pre-approval. So, and I've seen people lose deals because they go in a home, they love the home, but then they got to circle back and get the pre-approval. When they go back and that time of them circling back and getting a pre-approval, they get Nathan, and the home is already taken. So that's why it's imperative that you get a pre-approval. Once you get the pre-approval, now you're going to let me know what neighborhoods you want to be in. So once I get those neighborhoods, now I'm going to take those neighborhoods. I'm going to take your pre-approval, and then I'm going to ask you about different things about your criteria. What things do you absolutely want? What things you absolutely don't want? And I'm going to mesh those together. And that's going to come up with the criteria. After that, I'm going to send you different homes. Once I send those homes to you, you'll let me know which ones you want to see. So we'll go in and home, in and out of homes, in and out of homes, till we find one that you're comfortable with. Once we find one that you're comfortable with, we'll put an offer on it. Once we put an offer on it and it's approved, bam, you're under contract. Now you're under contract. The first thing that we got to do once you get under contract is we have to submit an earnest money deposit. Now, earnest money deposit is like a down payment. It's a down payment that you're going to put down towards your closing costs. So it's not a bonus for the seller. It's not a bonus for the seller. What it is it's something saying that you're serious. And the more down payment you put in, the stronger the offer is. Okay. So once you do that, you're going to submit your loan application with the lender. Now you got the pre-approval, but the pre-approval is the bank really taking your word for the most part about how much you make, what your reserves are, what your credit is. Well, they'll pull your credit. But when you go in underwriting, then they'll get update information on that. Okay. They'll get updated information. So you'll go into underwriting, and that's where the lender's going to ask you for updated taxes. They're going to ask you for updated, um, if they're going to ask you for updated taxes, they're also going to ask you for updated bank statements. They're going to ask you for updated W-2s or updated pay stubs. They're going to make you verify that you have a job. So they're and some people get annoyed at this process. But here's the thing: when's the last time somebody let you borrow $500,000? When's the last time somebody let you borrow $3,000? When's the last time somebody let you borrow 200,000? Probably hasn't happened. So the stuff that they're asking you for, how about you just get it? Even if they ask you for the same thing 50 billion times, because that does happen sometimes. The lender will ask you for the same thing that you already sent in. So just get the stuff for them, okay? So that's when the lender is going to put you into underwriting. At the same time, we're going to get an inspection. So when you go see homes, you don't have to be the inspector. I was with one lady, and I promise you, her mom was like a baby inspector. She wasn't an inspector, but we would go through homes, and she'd be looking at the home, and she would be like, "Oh, this foundation, is something wrong with the foundation. Oh, we got to check this out. Slow down, mama. Slow down." Okay. What the buyer is going to do is the buyer is going to get a home inspection. So you get a home inspection. Home inspection is probably like around 4 to 5, no, $600 to $700. And it's going to be you usually, I'm in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, what we usually get is we'll get a home inspection, we'll get a radon inspection, and we'll get a termite inspection. So you get all those inspections. Once you get all those inspections, then we go to the next one. The next one is that you negotiate based on that report with the sellers. So what that means is that you're going to write up a list of things that you want fixed based on the inspection. And either the sellers are going to do all the things, do some of the things, or do none of the things. So that's where negotiation comes back. And once you guys settle, okay, then you have the bank appraisal. So the appraiser, and that's the thing, even today, somebody asked me, one of my buyers was like, well, how much would you pay for this property? So we went to see a property, and the property was on the market for 2 days, only on the market for 2 days. And they're like, oh, well, how much would you pay for this property? And it's like, I don't think you're looking at it the right way. It doesn't matter what I think the value of the home is. What matters is what the market thinks the value of the home is. Because if the market value is $200,000, you could think this home is only worth $100,000 all day, but you're gonna be sitting by yourself with no home because that home is worth $200,000 because somebody's willing to pay $200,000. That's why it's worth $200,000. So you can sit on the sideline all day and be like, oh, well, I think it's worth, yeah, you and your opinion, sit right there and keep renting because this house is worth $200,000. So we'll let them know that. So the appraiser is going to come by, and the bank gets an appraiser, making sure that they're not overpaying for the property. So they're not. So you're not going to overpay for the property. So don't don't think that, oh, well, I got to get this price, that price, this price. You're not going to overpay for the property because this is within the actual what's how in the process. You can't overpay because there's going to be an appraisal, and you're getting the bank money from the bank, and the bank is not going to overpay. All right, so you'll get an appraisal. Now the appraisal is either going to come back higher than the price, at the price, or lower. If it comes in at or higher, you Gucci. Okay. If it comes in lower, if it comes in lower, now you got to go back to the drawing board or back to negotiations with the seller. So, for example, let's just say that you guys agree that you're going to buy this house for $300,000, but the appraisal comes back and says that it's only worth $280,000. Okay, there's a $20,000 gap. So one of three things is going to happen. Either they're going to lower their price down to 280, or they'll lower it to 190, and then the buyer has to bring an extra $10,000 on top of the closing costs and down payment, or the buyer brings the whole $20,000, or any type of combination of that. Okay. So after that, you're going to go and you're going to purchase homeowners insurance. Here's the thing about homeowners insurance. What you should do is you should reach out to a insurance agent, a brokerage. Like, for example, last week I had uh what's my guy's name? Josh. I had Josh Short on from Goosehead Insurance. Usually, before speaking with him, what I would do is just tell people to go with their car insurance and get a bundle. But you should go to an insurance broker like him so he can kind of shop and get the best deal for you. Okay. After that, your loan will be approved. Okay. So once your loan is approved, then what's going to happen is that closer to the closing time, you're going to receive documents with the actual finances on it because you need to know how much you're going to bring to the closing table. All right. After that, we'll do the pre-closing walkthrough. I'll go a little bit more into that. You'll sign the documents and bam, you're done. Go. You get your house. All right. So let's talk about some of these steps a little bit more. All right. Getting pre-approved, we already talked about that. You really need to get pre-approved before you go out and start to do anything. Okay. These are things that they're going to ask for: bank statements, tax returns, pay stubs, credit reports. Well, they'll get the credit report themselves. All right. My recommended lenders. Here are some now, and this is what I go to and this is an example of when I say that lenders have different programs. So, for example, Bank of America has a program where you can get up to $17,500 in down payment assistance. Also, I have somebody like, for example, Sahad Washington at Movement Mortgage. At Movement Mortgage, if you get the Philadelphia grant, which is up to $10,000, they have a grant that's $8,000. You can combine them, and that's $18,000. Okay, that's $18,000. I also have another program at First National Bank with my guy Tim Johnson, where You only need a 620. You can get a conventional loan with no PMI, and it also has down payment assistance on it. Also, I think the down payment assistance was like $5,000. So I'm just showing this, and that's three. I got about 7 or 8 different programs that have different upsides, different downsides, different criterias. Next is your home hunting. What's your wish list? You should definitely make a list of things that you definitely want and things you definitely don't want. All right. I'm gonna speed past all the rest of this. Making an offer, I'll definitely help you make an offer. So I'll let you know what type of offer you should be given. What's the site with the 3 credit scores for $1? Go to my resource page, khalidnathanaleem.com. You can see it down here. It's www.khalidnathanaleem.com. You go in there, and I have different tabs in there, but closer to the lower, you can see it says get your credit score for $1. Okay. Back to this. Here are 12 mortgage mistakes to avoid. Okay. Here are 12 mortgage mistakes to avoid. Number one is don't quit your job. All right. Do not quit your job. You have the BMI removed from your mortgage account. Okay. Um, Number one is do not quit your job, change your job, or become self-employed during the closing process. The bank doesn't want any sudden moves. The bank doesn't want any sudden moves. So do not quit your job while you're in the closing process. Number two, don't buy a car. Everybody should know that. Don't buy a car. Don't change banks. Okay. Don't change banks. Also, don't spend all of your savings. Don't spend all of your savings. I need to contact you. Black Butterfly, my information is right there on the screen. So you have my phone, and also you can make it an appointment, a virtual appointment with me at khalidnathanaleem.com. Um, all right, so back to mortgage mistakes to avoid. Number five is do not make big credit card purchases. Don't make big credit card purchases. Why? Because because of what I said before, talking about credit utilization. You can make a big purchase and it can kill your credit utilization. And if the bank on the 12th hour, if they run your credit again and your credit goes down, no home. They're not making the they're not going to lend you any money. All right. Number six, do not get behind on your bills. You don't want to get behind on your bills because you don't want to affect your credit score. Number seven, do not co-sign a loan for anybody. Do not co-sign a loan for anybody. I've seen so many people get jammed up because they're co-signing loans. Number eight is do not ignore the lender's requirements. Whatever the lender is asking you to do, you need to do. Number nine is do not apply for new credit cards because again, we don't want that to hurt your score. Don't lease a car. We already talked about don't buy a car, don't lease a car, stay away from cars. Number 11, don't buy furniture before the closing. I've heard horror stories of people going and they're happy they're about to go to closing. Hey, well, let me go buy some furniture. They go to Raymond and Flanagan's, spend all this money on furniture, and bam, their credit score goes down, and now they can't close on their home. All right. Also, don't make large deposits into your account outside of your paycheck because the bank wants to track everything. The bank wants to track everything. So don't make large deposits. All right. What's next? Oh, not over here. All right, the home inspection. We kind of talked about that. Different home inspections depending on where you're at. There's a abandoned house in front where I live. What I make an offer. It looks like a good flip. Okay, so some types of inspections or home inspections, bug and pest radon. Those are the three that we usually get in Philadelphia. You also have mold inspection that you can get, HVAC inspection, septic system. If you're in Upper Darby, they have to get a septic system inspection, lead-based paint inspection also. Um, and after that, I mean, you get your home insurance, your disclosures, you transfer your utilities, you do your final walkthrough. On your final walkthrough, what you're going to do is make sure that you turn on and off every light fixture. You're going to run water, check for leaks under the sinks, test all appliances, check garage door openers, uh, open and close every door. You're going to flush the toilet. You're going to inspect ceilings, walls, floors, make sure nobody kicked holes in the wall. You want to test the heat and air conditioning, open and close windows. Make sure all trash is removed from the home. And after that, boom, you're done. Okay. So listen, if you are in the Philadelphia area, Philadelphia, Delaware, or New Jersey, or anywhere in the US, get with me. Okay. But I specialize in Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. So what you want to do now is you want to set a virtual appointment with me. Okay. Again, you can go to www.realestatebull.com and you can go on there, set an appointment with me. You can also call me 267-930-1249. Okay. And you can get me on any you can get me on any platform, real estate board at real estate board. Okay. This is Khalid Nathan Aleem, the real estate board. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home,